Good morning, students. Now we are moving on to unit number 5, poem A Father to His Son by Carl Sandburg. So, before beginning the poem, let us see some of the informations about the poet. Poetry is the opening and closing of a door, leaving those who look through it guess about what was seen during a moment. So, this is a fine quotation which is given by Carl Sandburg. And now let us see who is Sandburg and the author profile. Sandburg was born in Galesburg, Illinois, to parents of Swedish ancestry. Carl August Sandburg, January 6, 1878 to July 22, 1967, was an American poet, writer, and editor. He won 3 Pulitzer Prizes, 2 for his poetry and 1 for his biography of Abraham Lincoln. During his lifetime, Sandburg was widely regarded as a major figure in contemporary literature, especially for volumes of his collected verse, including Chicago Poems in 1916, Corn Huskers in 1918, and Smoke and Steel 1920, and he enjoyed unrivaled appeal as a poet in his day, perhaps because the breadth of his experiences connected him with so many strands of American life. And at his death in 1967, President Lyndon B. Johnson observed that Carl Sandburg was more than the voice of America, more than the poet of its strength and genius. He was America. Sandburg had a middle school named after him, and in this poem, a father is thinking about the advice he wishes to impart to his son. Now, let us know some of the information about Pulitzer Prize. So, what is a Pulitzer Prize? How is it awarded? And other details. So, a Pulitzer Prize is an award for achievements in newspaper, magazine, online journalism, literature, and musical composition within United States. And it was established in 1917 by provisions in the will of newspaper Joseph Pulitzer, who had made his fortune as a newspaper publisher and is administered by Columbia University. So, this information you should know. And we are also going to see details about some of the outstanding personalities in this poem. And before going into the poem, let me give you what is the poem about and what is its summary. The poem is a kind of a brief description of worldly wisdom given by a father to a son. Here, a father who has earned experience from the life wishes that his son should lead a life where he could have enough energy and stamina to grapple the hurdles that come in the pathway of life. A father's tension increases when he looks at his son standing at the threshold of manhood. So it is always the father's tension. It is the father of everybody who has tension when his or her daughter, son or a daughter, is in the threshold of manhood or womanhood. So it is a time when nearly each and every father becomes protective and cautious. A vigilant father is always careful of the career concerns and future settlements and familial responsibilities towards his son. He wants his son should achieve whatever he could not achieve in his lifetime, and he tells his son about his failures and successes and also the mantra behind all this. Being aware of the fact that life is hard, he motivates his son to be steel like to be steel and strong and like a rock. An enlightened father also tells his son that too much money has killed men and left them dead years before burial. So, this is the summary of the poem or the content of the poem. Now, let us go into the poetic lines. A father sees his son nearing manhood. What shall he tell that son? Life is hard, be steel, be a rock, and this might stand him for the storms and serve him for humdrum monotony and guide him among sudden betrayals and tighten him for slack moments. So now let us see what is the meaning of these lines. So a father sees his son nearing manhood. What shall he tell that son? So he is confused. What should he advise his son? So a father sees his son at the threshold of manhood, nearing manhood state, and he encourages his son to explore and take risk in his life because he believes that the life is fun. He motivates him to be hard like a rock. See, that life is hard, so he wants his son to be like a hard rock and be steel, be a rock. So he wants, or he advises his son to be strong like a steel and hard like a rock to face the challenges that he is apt to face while he approaches the stage of manhood, and serve him from humdrum monotony. And this might stand him for the storms and serve him for humdrum monotony. Next to two lines, we will see the meaning. If he is hard, what he is going to do? This would make him to withstand, to face the challenges. Challenges means the difficulties, to stand him for the storm. So storms here means the challenges in his life, the difficulties in his life, and serve him to prevent boring routine, humdrum monotony. Look to this word. You just note down the meaning of this. What do you mean by humdrum monotony? An appreciation question might be asked. Humdrum monotony means boring routine activity in his life. So if he is steel, and if he is strong like a steel and hard like a rock, it would make him withstand or face the challenges in life and serve him to prevent the boring routine in his life. And it can also guide him among sudden betrayals, that is falsehood. He might not be cheated looking at the falsehood in his life. And it can also make him active in slow progress. Slack moments mean slow progress. So if something is very slow in his life, he might not be disappointed. So this is the meaning of these 8 or 7 lines. Okay, let me again recall what is the meaning of these lines. A father sees his son at the threshold of mankind, so he encourages his son to explore and take risks in life because he believes that life is full of fun, and he motivates him to be hard like a rock and a steel. So look at the figure of speech used there. Life is hard, be steel, be a rock. So metaphor is the figure of speech used here. Comparison is between life is compared to a hard rock and a strong steel. Okay. So but the word like is not used there. So what is the figure of speech used here? Life is compared to hardness as a rock and steel, strong as a steel. So like is not used. So it is implied simile or metaphor. Okay. So and this might stand him for the storms. Storms means difficulties in life or challenges in life, to prevent boring routine in his life, and it can also guide him among sudden betrayals, that is falsehood, and it can also make him active in slow progress. Slack moments means slow progress. So now let us move on to the next line. Life is soft loam, be gentle, go easy, and this too might serve him. Brutes have been gentle where lashes failed. The growth of a frail flower in a path up has sometimes shattered and split a rock. Look at the beautiful lines that he has said. Life is a soft loam. Again, he is comparing life to a soft loam. Loam means soil, fertile soil. Soft loam. அப்படின்னா என்ன அர்த்தம்? Soft means very fertile. So loam means soil. So here the poet is using the figure of speech metaphor because life is compared to a soft loam. Soft loam means fertile soil. So he is asking his son to be gentle. He should not be brute. He should not be brutal or cruel, and he should go easy. That is his advice. So life is a soft loam. Be gentle, go easy, and this too might serve him. Life is like a fertile soil, so we can make our life fruitful if we show gentleness and take life as it comes. So we should be gentle when we are approaching other people. So, and take life as it comes. We should not be getting worried about the things. Brutes have been gentle where lashes fail. At times, gentleness overtakes harshness. Harsh people can be calmed by gentleness. Even harsh people can be calmed by gentleness. So he advises his son to be gentle always, to be humble always. Whereas a whip means a stick, will fail to do so. The growth of a frail flower in a path up has sometimes shattered and split a rock. So he is again comparing, whereas a whip will fail to do so. The growth of a tender flower can split a rock. Even a small sapling or a small plant of flower can split even a huge rock. So he advises his son to be gentle always, so that he could make his life fruitful. So that is the comparison he is making. Life is a soft loam. Metaphor is the figure of speech used here. Now let us move on to the next line. A tough, next answer, that is, a tough will counts, so does desire, so does a rich soft wanting. Without rich wanting, nothing arrives. Tell him too much money has killed men and left them dead years before burial. The quest of lucre beyond a few easy needs has twisted good enough men, sometimes into dry, thwarted worms. So let us see what is the meaning of this line. A tough will count, so does desire, so does a rich soft wanting. Without rich wanting, nothing arrives. So what is the meaning of this line? One should have a strong willpower to achieve anything in his life. So that is more important in life. To achieve something, you should have willpower in life. And one should have a deep desire. Desire means wanting, and strong will to achieve success. If you want to achieve success, you should desire, or you should have aspiration to achieve that success. One should wish to become wealthy. So that is also very important. We should have wealth to do something, isn't it? So without wealth, nothing comes to us. To get things done, we need money. So that is his advice. See there, he doesn't say you need not go for money or you need not earn money. He also advises his son that to do something in life, to achieve something in life, to achieve success in life, we need wealth. And in order to achieve this wealth, you should have desire. And without wealth, nothing comes to us. To get things done, we need money. So that is his advice. Telling too much money Telling too much money has killed men and left them dead years before burial. The quest of lucre beyond a few easy needs, and has twisted good enough men sometimes into dry, thwarted worm. So, and the next line, see there, what does he do is, but the greed for money. He says that we should earn wealth, or we should aspire to earn wealth. But in the following line, he says, but the greed of money has left men dead before they really die. ஸோ நிறைய பணம் பணம் தெரியுறவங்க என்ன ஆகிறாங்கன்னு பார்த்தீங்கன்னா, they just forget everything, and that just they go beyond money. They are only conscious of earning money, and they are not worried about what are the ways through which they are earning that money, and they really die before death arrives to them. And good men also have fallen prey in search for easy money. What is easy money? Money not earned through good ways, that is called as easy money. The poet so advises men or the youth to earn money through proper ways. So he advises them not to earn money through improper ways. So that might kill them, or that might change them like a thwarted worm. Thwarted worm means a cruel worm. They might even they might become a thwarted worm. Thwarted, look to the meaning, frustrated worms. So they will behave or have an ideal of becoming like worm. So it is not advisable. So he advises his son not to chase money, but money should be earned for achieving any success in life. So the next stanza, tell him, time as a stuff can be wasted. Tell him to be a fool every so often, and to have no shame over having been a fool, yet learning something out of every folly, hoping to repeat none of the cheap follies, thus arriving at intimate understanding of a world numbering many fools. So tell him time as the stuff can be wasted. So he advises the son to waste even time for leisure. It is considered as not waste. When you seek knowledge, leisure means it is a time which is spent for seeking knowledge according to August Sandburg. So never feel ashamed to be called as a fool for not knowing things. So you should not feel ashamed that you are not knowing anything in this world, because only those people who are not knowing will try to understand what is it and will try to know or conquer that, or they will go to approach people for asking their doubts. And he also advises them not to feel ashamed of being a fool to gather knowledge, yet learning something out of every folly, hoping to repeat none of the cheap follies. What does this line mean? At the same time, learn from your mistakes. He advises his son to learn from the mistakes and never repeat the cheap mistakes you have done. So, yet learning something out of every folly, every mistake should be a teacher to you, hoping to repeat none of the cheap follies. When you learn from your mistake, you should also note that you should not repeat the same mistake again. So, thus arriving at intimate understanding of a world numbering many fools. By never repeating his mistakes, he comes to have a close understanding of the world around him with the number of fools. So he knows how the fools, he knows the characterization of the fools when he learns from the mistakes. So he advises you should learn from your mistakes and you should never repeat that mistakes again. And by never repeating his mistake, he comes to have a close understanding of the world around him. So that is his advice. So when we are fool, we will learn from our mistakes. We will not repeat our mistakes, and we will learn from the world around us. So let us move on to the next stanza. Tell him to be alone often and get at himself, and above all, tell himself no lies about himself, whatever the white lies and protective fronts he may use against other people. Tell him solitude is creative if he is strong, and the final decisions are made in silent rooms. So, in the previous stanza, he says that we can learn from our mistakes and we should not never repeat it again. And we should know what the world is around us, isn't it? So, in the following lines, he says that tell him to be alone often and get at himself. So, do self-analyzing often. Learn about yourself. Think about yourself. What are you? Be alone sometimes and get at himself. That means you should be alone sometimes to improve on himself. Do not hesitate to accept your shortcoming, and above all tell himself not lies about himself. We should not tell lies about himself, and do not hesitate to accept your shortcomings. Please accept your shortcomings. Whatever mistake you do, you should accept that. Avoid telling lies to protect self against other people. So you should not tell lies against others in order to protect yourself, and you should always be honest and move forward. So he advises his son to be in solitude, because solitude is creative. He is personifying here. See here, solitude is personified here. It is creative, it seems. So a personal quality is given to solitude. So what is the figure of speech used here? Personification. If he is strong, and the final decisions are made in silent room. So he advises his son to be in silent rooms, to be alone in the silent rooms, and he believes that when he is alone, he can learn a lot of things about himself and he could gather knowledge. A lot of knowledge could be gathered in the silent room and proper decisions could be made in the silent rooms. Tell him to be different from other people if it comes natural and easy being different. Let him have lazy days, seeking his deeper motives. Let him seek deep for where he is born natural. So let us see the meaning of this line. Tell him to be different from other people. If it comes natural and easy being different, let him have lazy days, seeking his deeper motives. Let him seek deep for where he is born natural. So, the poet advises his son that he should be different from other people. Tell him to be different from other people. That means he is asking his son that he should be unique from other people. If that is his nature, அது அவனுடைய குவாலிட்டியாக இருந்தால் he should be unique, தனித்தன்மை வாய்ந்தவனாக இருக்கணும் அப்படின்னு சொல்கிறார். He should not be one among the people. He should not imitate others and he should be unique and different. If that is what makes him happy, and that will always make him happy. He says that if he is going to be unique and different from other people, he can enjoy happiness in his life. Let him have lazy days, seeking his deeper motive. Let him seek deep for where he is born natural. So he also says that the son may need lazy days. Here, the son is actually lazy. He advises his son to be lazy. He can be lazy. But actually, he see here lazy days. This lazy is an adjective. It is being apt to that days there. So what is being described as lazy? Days are being described lazy in these lines. But actually, the days are not lazy. Only the son can be lazy. He says that the son could be lazy if he wants to gather a lot of knowledge. For to find his inborn abilities, அவருடைய உள்ளார்ந்த திறமைகளை தெரிந்து கொள்வதற்கு அவர் சோம்பேறியாக இருக்கலாம் அப்படின்னு சொல்கிறார். And to seek whatever he is born for in order to learn what is his inborn qualities. So look at the figure of speech used here. The figure of speech used here is transferred epithet. Okay, let me explain what is the transferred epithet. Please note, a transferred epithet is used here. See there, one minute. Yeah, it is a figure of speech in which an epithet grammatically qualifies a noun other than the person or a thing. It is actually meant to describe a noun. See there, example, left them dead years before burial. Let him have lazy days, seeking his deeper motive. Here, days are not lazy actually, but his son should be lazy enough to seek his inborn abilities. And one more line is also having the transferred epithet, bringing changes into world resenting change. Here, the people in the world are referred here to describe the change and not the world here. The world is not disliking the changes. Actually, the people living in the world are disliking the changes. So, a noun which is used to describe instead of another noun is known as transferred epithet. So, it is a figure of speech in which an epithet grammatically qualifies a noun other than the person or a thing. ஸோ இன்னொரு நவுனுக்கு பதிலாக வேறு ஒரு நவுனை வந்து குவாலிஃபை பண்ணிச்சுன்னா தென் தட் ஃபிகர் ஆஃப் ஸ்பீச் இஸ் கால்ட் அஸ் ட்ரான்ஸ்ஃபர்டு எபித்தட். ஸோ இந்த இடத்துல லேசி டேஸுங்கிறது டேஸ் வந்து ஆக்சுவலாக லேசியாக கிடையாது. ஒன்லி த சன் கேன் பி லேசி இன் ஆர்டர் டு நோ ஹிஸ் இன்பார்ன் talents. So that is what is mentioned here. So the figure of speech used in this line is transferred epithet, lazy days. So if you are asked in your appreciation question, you should be able to explain that. Then he may understand Shakespeare and the Wright brothers, Pasteur, Pablo, Michael Faraday, and free imaginations, bringing changes into a world resenting change. So here also the figure of speech used in this line is transferred epithet. Okay, so transferred epithet is a figure of speech in which an epithet grammatically qualifies the noun other than the person or a thing. So it is actually meant to describe. Here the world is resenting the change. Here world means not the physical world but the people living in the world are described here. So the figure of speech used in this particular line is transferred epithet. Then he may understand Shakespeare. So if he is going to stay lonely in a silent room, he may understand how the works of Shakespeare and Wright brothers, Pasteur and Pablo, Michael Faraday, and free imagination brought changes into the world which disliked changes. So he may understand the works of Shakespeare, Wright brothers, Pasteur, Pablo, and Michael Faraday, and he could understand what the world is disliking. So he could come to know what is the truth. So that is what the father is advising his son. He will be lonely enough to have time for work he knows as his one. So during such resentment means disliking. So during such loneliness here disliking, let him know that it is time for him to be on his own and work to achieve like others to change the world. So when he is alone, he will think about the great achievements of Shakespeare, Wright brothers, Pasteur, Pablo, Michael Faraday, and he will make changes in this world, even though the world is not liking that changes. And during that disliking, let him know that it is time for him to be on his own. தானாகவே தன்னுடைய வெளிப்பாடுகளை கொண்டு வரணும் அப்படிங்கிறத அவர் ரியலைஸ் பண்ணுவார் அப்படின்னு சொல்கிறார். And work to achieve like others to change the world. So now let us see some of the outstanding personalities who are mentioned here. So this is Michael Faraday. His main discoveries include the principles underlying electromagnetic induction, diamagnetism, and electrolysis. This is Louis Pasteur, a French biologist, microbiologist, and chemist, renowned for his discoveries of the principles of vaccination and microbial fermentation and pasteurization. This is Pablo, a Russian physiologist known primarily for his work in classical conditioning. Classical conditioning is a learning process that occurs when two stimuli are repeatedly paired. A response which is at first elicited by the second stimulus is eventually elicited by the first stimulus alone. So this is known as classical conditioning. This is a psychology actually. So this person, Pablo, is a psychologist, physiologist. Shakespeare, an English poet, playwright, and actor, widely regarded as the greatest writer in the English language and the world's greatest dramatist. This is Wright brothers, American aviation pioneers, generally credited with inventing, building, and flying the world's first successful airplane. So now let us see the figures of speech here. Metaphor. Life is hard, be steel, be a rock. Life is soft loam, be gentle, go easy. These two lines have the figure of speech metaphor. Tell him solitude is creative if he is strong. Here solitude is personified. It is given human qualification and quality, and so the figure of speech used here is personification. Anaphora. Tell him time as a stuff can be wasted. Tell him to be a fool every so often. See there, the first two words which are repeated again in the subsequent lines. Such type of figure of speech is called as anaphora. Okay. Transferred epithet. Let him have lazy days, seeking his deeper motives, bringing changes into a world resenting change. Already I have given you clearly, but once again let me say what is a transferred epithet. It is a figure of speech in which an epithet grammatically qualifies a noun other than the person or a thing it actually meant to describe. Okay. Alliteration, this is nothing but the repetition of initial consonant sounds and the first line in one particular line or in the subsequent line, and this might stand him for the storm, whatever the white lies and protective front, to have time for the work he knows as his one. Here, stand and storms are alliterated words, and again, whatever and white are alliterated words. Then, time and the are alliterated words. He and his are alliterated words. Okay. So, thank you, students, and keep learning.